Shalom, shalom to all, and welcome back to the channel. It's your fellow brother, Will, son of Yah, and today we will be answering the question of who are the Daggertoon. So to answer this question, we shall be looking into the writings of Rabbi Mordecai Abi Sarur, and we can actually find what he stated about the Daggertoon in the book known as the Jewish Encyclopedia, a descriptive record of the history, religion, literature, and customs of the Jewish people from the earliest times to the present day, specifically volume 12. Now, within this, it reads off that the Daggertoon are a nomadic tribe of Jewish origin, living in the neighborhood of Timbuktu and oasis of Tuat in the Moroccan Sahara. An account of the Daggertoon was first given by R. Mordecai Abi Sarur of Akka, Morocco, who in 1857 journeyed through the Sahara to Timbuktu, and whose account of these travels was published in the Bulletin de la Société de Géographique. According to R. Mordecai, the Daggertoon lived in tents and resembled the Berber Tuaregs, among whom they live in language, religion, and general customs. They are fairer in complexion than the generality of the African Jews and are still conscious of their origin. They are subject to the Tuaregs who do not intermarry with them. Our Mordecai is authority for the statement that their settlement is in the Sahara dates from the end of the 7th century when Abi al-Malik ascended to the throne and pushed his conquest as far as Morocco. So thus far we see them settled in territories right here like Tuat as well as Timbuktu in the Moroccan Sahara. This is where they were initially settled. But let's continue. It's stated that at Timbuktu he tried to convert the inhabitants to Islam, and as the Jews offered great resistance, he exiled them to the desert of Hajjaj, as he did also the Tuaregs who had only partially accepted Islam. Cut off from any connection with their brethren, these Jews in the Sahara gradually lost their Jewish practices and became nominally Mohammedans. These statements of R. Mordecai evidently rest upon some foundation. The Arabs driven to Hajjaj are to be identified with the Macharga mentioned by Irwin B. Berry, among whom a few Jews are said to still dwell. Continuing. It goes on to say that V.J. Hortwich also speaks on many free tribes in the desert regions who are Jews by race, but who have gradually thrown off Jewish customs and have apparently accepted Islam. Among these tribes, he says, are the Daggertoon, numbering several thousands and scattered over several oases in the Sahara, even as far as the river Delevia or Niger. He says also that they are very warlike and in constant conflict with the Tuaregs. According to Horwich, the Macharga mentioned above are also to be reckoned as one of the Jewish tribes. Alright, so we can see that according to Rabbi Mordecai, these Daggertoon Jews were originally in the Tuat areas of Morocco, but eventually in the 7th century, with the advent of Islam in the area, some of these people were pushed further south around the Niger River area. The best way to identify the Daggertoon Jews along the Niger River, in my opinion, is to look at surnames. And to do that, we're going to go to the Judaic threads in West African tapestry, No More Forever, because it lists off some of these surnames of the Daggertoon. For instance, it states in 1997, a news report from Timbuktu announced the creation of the Association Timbuktuine d'Amint avec la Mandi Israelite, or the Zakor. The press release also noted that according to many sources, the descendants of Malayan Jews carry the names Tori, Haidara, or Daga, an affirmation of identity that recalls Mordecai Abi Sarur's account of the Daggertoon. So we can see that these Daggertoon Jews had surnames like Tori, Haidara, as well as Daga. Not only that, in a previous slide we learned that some of these people settled along the Niger River, which brings credence to the fact why we see descendants of Malayan Jews having these surnames, alright, because we know that Mali is on the Niger River as well. Let's dig into that. Where does the last name Haidara come from? and where can we find it today? So the last name Haidara is found in Mali more than any other country or territory. Again, we read that descendants of the Daggertoon settled in the Niger River area, and we see one of these surnames that they have proliferating in the places like Mali. So let's read the next highlighted. It states that the last name occurs mostly in Africa, where 89% of Haidara live, 87% live in West Africa, and 80% live in Mandi Africa. So again, we can see that this Haidara surname that's attributed to the Daggatun Jews is found in Mali amongst the Mandi people. Let's continue to dig. What about the surname Tori? Tori is borne by more people in Mali than any other country or territory, just as the other surname we just read, Haidara. For instance, this goes on to say again that the last name occurs predominantly in Africa, where 97% of Tori live, 95% live in West Africa, and 68% live in Mandi Africa. Again, connecting these peoples with this surname to the Mandi peoples, or the Malayan Jews as they were called. So with that, we have an understanding that we can find people with this surname mainly in Africa, specifically West Africa, and even to go more deeper on that, in Mandi Africa amongst the Mandi people. So let's move on to the article titled "After Islamic Threat Repelled, Spotlight Hits Jews of Fabled Timbuktu." We're going to read this to get a little information that connects to everything we've brought out this far. So starting at the top, it states that Timbuktu, the remote and ancient Sahara city that was until recently controlled by Al-Qaeda affiliated groups, is not often thought of as an outpost of Jewish life. Yet this West African town of some 55,000 in northern Mali is still home to an estimated 1,000 descendants of Jews who converted to Islam centuries ago. In 3 villages near the city, local residents still refer to these descendants as the Jews, but visitors and activists report that Malayans of Jewish ancestry did not suffer any form of discrimination, even with the infiltration of violent Islamic extremists in the region. It also appears that the ancient documents that serve as proof of Jewish life in Timbuktu survived the recent attacks on the city's historic library. Interest in this Jewish history peaked 2 decades ago when a local scholar, armed with ancient trade documents containing Hebrew script, launched a research project that documented the Jewish roots of some local residents. Continuing on to the last portion of the page, it says that Timbuktu's short-lived revival as a remote center of Jewish interest can be attributed almost completely to the work of one historian, Ishmael Daidi Haidara. Now, thus far we've learned that descendants of the Daggatun also had the surname Haidari, and even here this historian managed to find out that he was a Jew by way of his surname, specifically a Daggatun surname, Haidara. It goes on to say, in the early 1990s, Haidara began researching the story of Jews in the region. He had little to work with, a few old commerce documents with notes in Hebrew written in their margins. Several family names that lived on in local versions remain on Timbuktu synagogues and of Jewish graves. And the fact that in 3 villages along the Niger, locals still identify some of these residents as the Jews. So one important thing that we need to take from this is that some of these Jews in this region of Mali actually trace their Jewish ancestry by way of family names, family surnames. And even we learned that the Daggatun Jews that settled along the Niger River, specifically in Mali, carried the surname Haidara, Daga, and even Tori. And even this brother here, again, Ishmael Daidi Haidara, descends from these Jews that settled here. So to conclude, we have Daggatun descendants amongst the Malayan Jews, or the Mandi, who we can actually argue had ancient Israelites amongst them prior to these Daggatuns. And again, the Mandi people in West Africa who could have a strong chance of descending from these Daggatun Jews would be Mandi people with surnames like Haidara, Tori, or Toor, as well as Daga. And that wraps up this video of who are the Daggertoon. I hope you all enjoyed it. Stay tuned for the information we're bringing out on the African Israelite diaspora. Shalom and Todah.